Oh, yes! Another P rank. Oh my god, dude. I'm glad all I have to focus on right now is Pizza Tower. Oh. Oh, hello. Hello, everyone. I said I'd be making more updates on my opinions of Rise and Sunbreak as a whole as the title updates come out, so now it's time to talk about Amatsu. We'll get to you later. Amatsu, the Storm Dragon, the final boss of Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. How did you translate into Sunbreak? Actually, it was spectacular. The updated model is gorgeous to look at, and you can really see more detail now. The theme is as beautiful as it was, and actually fits the theming of the monster, and overall, the attacks were interesting, new, and fun. Alright, with all that out of the way, it's time for criticisms. The fight was absolutely way too easy. Being the Fatalis equivalent for Sunbreak, this is absolutely disappointing. It's still the same issue as all the other monsters in the game though, not the attacks themselves being too easy to dodge or anything, just they don't do nearly enough damage. We aren't getting a more powerful version of Amatsu outside of an event quest, maybe, so this is what we got. If your build's even slightly thought out, you won't have a problem decimating the fight. And this is all actually really painful to say, because I love Amatsu so much, and especially what they did with the fight in Sunbreak. It's incredible. They just didn't give it an extra push that it very, very desperately needed. And I do believe needed is the right word, because you can probably beat this thing coming out of the final boss. That's not all though, because we also have the story. The thematic implementation of Amatsu was unfortunately done extremely poorly, and the integration of Amatsu story-wise is appalling. The build-up was essentially non-existent. We got a couple lines of dialogue from previous updates hinting at Amatsu from people in Elgato, and that's it. The cutscene before the fight with Amatsu, which has Kagero and Yamogi talking over her past and trying to convince them not to fight the Amatsu, was a payoff that was not earned at all. The only lines of dialogue in the game that pertains to Yamogi and Kagero's origins are from Fugashiki the Informant, and I don't remember if there's any from the title updates, but I'll throw another free point in there. Even then, it is extremely vague and not elaborated on in-game at all. In order to get the idea behind their backstory, you would have to be following social media accounts that really delve into their lore, or spend time to read the wall of text Capcom posted on their Twitter about it. The average player will just not see this, and ultimately be lost in the dark when Kagero's talking about his and Yamogi's kingdom being destroyed, and even more so when they start arguing about fighting the damn Amatsu. I have first-hand proof of this, as my friend I've been playing with, after he watched the cutscene, said, "What the hell was this random backstory they just established?" He was completely in the dark. It was ridiculous. It's almost impossible to understand the lore of this without doing some real extensive research beforehand and reading, which is simply lazy on their part. They should have taken the time to very much so in-your-face establish this. And now I gotta touch on something very, very central about the Yamatsu fight that really, really bugged me, story-wise. People on Twitter will never be reasonable, but I think I have to address this comment in particular due to how asinine it really is. Started with this one person talking about Apex Zenogre invading the quest. I actually hate this, and they obviously thought it was great. They compared the Zenogre invading the quest to Nergigante invading on Zora Magdaros and Shara Shivalda's quests, saying that it made more sense because of the connection that Zenogre has with Amatsu. I read that, and I said to myself, no, that's stupid. Flat out. Nergigante invading on Zora Magdaros made sense because Nergigante is a monster that often punches up in its weight classes, even to the extent that it would beat Zora Magdaros. I mean, that's a story thing that happens. They explain that. It has been established in Space World and is a defining characteristic of the guy. So when he invades the Zora Magdaros quest and gets pissed because a bunch of ants are ruining his picnic, he freaks out and tries to fight us and leaves. Then again, he comes back for round 2 and tries to pick away at Zora again before we drive him off. Or he just leaves. That kind of sucks, but yeah, that happens. Shara Shivalda is the same story. He's there to eat and is being interrupted. We don't understand why he's there, and we try to kill him. It wasn't as good with Shara because he didn't have a huge appearance in the story, but it still made sense. Now how does the Matsu fight tackle something like this? Well, about halfway through the fight, an Apex Zenogre appears. Because, I mean, Atsushi lures him there? To the actual hurricane? Towards the hurricane? What? Okay. And it's also it's Apex Zenogre. Because, yeah, actually nothing. There's nothing that backs up why it's Apex Zenogre. just because it's cooler, actually. That's the reason. It actually makes no sense that Apex Zinogre appears here, because you got to understand that. I mean, please. I understand that Amatsu caused Zinogre to leave their habitat, but an animal doesn't go back for revenge like this, and an animal definitely will not put itself in a situation like this where its life is so horrendously threatened and the odds are so against it. The fact that it's an Apex Zinogre makes it make less sense. Apex monsters are a result of the rampage and the storms that were caused by Narwa and Ibushi. What the fuck is Apex Zinogre pissed at Amatsu when the one it should want to take its anger out on should be the Wind Serpents? To address the second tweet directly, there's really nothing saying that Zinogre is particularly territorial, especially to the degree that it would risk their life over getting back a piece of land. In fact, the game suggests the opposite, considering Amatsu's mere presence was enough to make all the Zinogre population just leave. Okay, so this is post-recording Fungus again. I just wanted to sit here and explain what I mean here in the story section a little bit better, because I feel like maybe it doesn't actually, what I'm saying doesn't make as much sense as it should. And I think it's just because I worded it poorly, and maybe there's not enough context. So, the monsters in Monster Hunter are actually just animals. They aren't actually, like, monsters. They don't actually have any evil intentions, and they definitely don't risk their lives for, like, no reason. Like, they're smart. If they don't think they can win an encounter, they'll just leave. It's like the entire reason why Zinogre left the area in Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. That's the reason why the story happens, is because Zinogre leave. Apex monsters don't just get, like, a second... Well, I mean, they do. They get, like, a second win. They are, like, stronger versions of the same monster. But they don't just ignore, like, their base animal instinct in favor of revenge because Amatsu's here now, even though Amatsu's not even in the same location that Zinogre's habitats are known to be in Rise. So the fact that there's one even in the area is kind of stupid, considering the fact that Amatsu should probably have the same population, or I can't speak, Amatsu should probably have the exact same effect on the Zinogre population and be able to drive it away again. It just falls flat again. Like, it doesn't make sense when you think about it at all. And yeah, I know Rise and Sunbreak aren't, like, oof. They're just not, like, mainline games. They're portable titles. So, like, I get it, you can have some fun with the final boss, but it's just so horrifically asinine. And for people to be claiming that it makes more sense than the story connection of Nergigante and Zora Magdaros or Shorish Falda, it really is, it bothers me, because it's a series that I care about a lot, and whenever there's plenty of reasons for Nergigante being in those two locations, whereas an animal, Zinogre is an animal, just showing up because Itsushi said, "Come here, boy." It just doesn't compute, not at all. And also Wyvern riding is terrible, and that kind of ruined it a little bit for me as well. I just hate Wyvern riding. I just felt like I had to add this little post-proper section to clarify what I mean. If you have any other questions, just, I don't know, ask me on Twitter or something, or put a comment in the comment section. I could probably clarify more. Sorry, another quick thing. I also mentioned that there was, like, no build-up to the Matsu fight in-game. It's because there isn't. You pretty much just go to Kimura, and they're like, Amatsu's here. And then you go and get the cutscene with Yamogi and Kagero. And I'm comparing that lack of build-up to the build-up that Fatalis got in World, with the General, a whole new character being introduced, the General coming back, or coming to Astera/Celiana, to warn everyone and request for backup, essentially. For you to then get this very personal, up-in-your-face encounter with Fatalis, where he flies through he breaks through the brick walls of the castle, knocks down a ton of it. You're pretty much, like, 3 feet from his face, you get real up close with his eyes. It's crazy. And then you and Aiden, who's a person who, yeah, isn't, like, super important to the story, at least has some presence, and some sort of familial connection with your hunter. Then you fight him with the NPC. It's nice, and it feels more connected and special, considering the fact that it's not really even done in World until that point. And I feel like Amatsu is supposed to be the Fatalis equivalent for Rise, so I feel like comparing the two is fair. But that's where that is coming from also. So to summarize, yeah, it sucks. Almost everything about the monster story implementation was just done horribly. The fight itself was incredible, at least. Probably one of the best spectacles in the series, if not the best. Just a letdown in difficulty, because I still beat it first try. The armor is neat too, though. Risen Shagaru. I kind of sounded negative when I talked about it earlier, like just mentioned the name. But there's actually not much to say. It was just a letdown in difficulty again because, yeah, once again, first try. It did cart me twice, so it almost got me. I'm gonna be real with you. I mean, not after the second card. I think I had like 4 to 5, so it's kind of just didn't have a chance after that. But yeah, anyway, its armor is also pretty interesting. It gives you a 4th wire bug, so that's pretty much a new Gunlance Blast Dash meta, which is fun. It's pretty much everything on the Risen Shagaru front. Special investigations. In theory, this seems like a really interesting and cool idea. Make the monsters that so desperately needed to be buffed a challenge. They hit harder, they have kind of new attacks, they're just old ones but they're bigger, but they're kind of new. This all sounds great, but they're locked behind Anomaly rank 300. That's the issue, really. The Anomaly investigations are not interesting enough to warrant the amount of time to grind up to AR 300. I would have to play for hours just grinding Anomaly investigations every day to get to this point, and I'm just not that convinced it would be too difficult or rewarding. To summarize, yeah, this is mad weak. End thoughts. Considering what the Sunbreak title updates contain thus far, I probably shouldn't have gotten my hopes up super high. Regardless, the lack of difficulty in this game was a massive letdown, which led to the game still being a bit lackluster in the long run. I just hope it picks back up in Monster Hunter 6. I should also mention there's going to be a bonus update in June with what looks to be a Malzeno variant. I'll put my thoughts up on that when it drops, but unless it's close to Fatalis or Elatrion in quality and difficulty, it likely won't change anything. My Sunbreak overall score sits at 8.5 still. Good day, and play Sunbreak if you enjoy it. Also, I want to say I was being way too harsh earlier. I mean, I stand by what I said, but I definitely probably lost my composure a bit. Have a good day. Play the video games. It's fun.